What is the most disturbing thing to know? Cruise liners all have a morgue for all the passengers that inevitably die each trip. By the time you show the symptoms of rabies, it's already too late. It can also be dormant for a year before you show those symptoms. I have a real fear of rabies because of this. If you ever find a bat in your house, or anywhere you have slept, get the rabies shots. Bats can bite or scratch you and you sometimes won't even notice, especially if you were asleep. Hotels rarely clean their ice machines. I've only worked one place ever that soaked their fountain nozzles in diluted cleaner overnight. No one else cleaned them. There are lots of nooks and crannies inside them. That's what your soda goes through. That there is anywhere between 25-50 active serial killers in the United States, according to the FBI. Edit, added words. Yet you're still far more likely to be murdered by someone you know and trust. There are spiders that capture bats in South America. There's some spiders that eat birds. https://www. IndiaTimes.com trending WTF this abnormally huge bird-eating spider named Martha is freaking people out 507,138. HTML, in Australia. They look nasty. The youngest person to ever give birth was 5 years old. Lena Medina. Just think of what happened to the poor girl. That the majority of humans will wait until life-threatening problems become unsolvable before they try to fix them. I think that's my call to talk to my doctor about my bleeding anus. If we see a life-threatening meteor is going to strike us in a few years, we probably, at least at the moment, couldn't do anything about it. They've had training simulations with this exact scenario, and they only got it right like 10% of the time. They need more like 10 years to reliably and consistently stop it. I also feel they wouldn't tell us to avoid widespread panic. But I have thought about this scenario and one question comes to mind. If you knew a meteor would hit Earth and it's an extinction level event, would you go where the meteor hits? Or to the other side of the planet? A dying person's eyes will sometimes go from closed to shooting wide open as they pass. Source, personal observation unfortunately. Edit, to clarify. This happened to my father-in-law and I was present. My heart goes out to everyone else who has lost loved ones. Even though the eyes opening was certainly disturbing. Being able to have him die at home as he wished and us being there with him at the end was a positive experience that I've made peace with. Thanks for the awards and it's nice discussing with everyone. I guess I'm kind of thankful my dad was asleep in a coma when he passed. Seeing his eyes left open would have been too painful. When he took his last breath, tears came down his face, which I was not expecting. One of the scariest and most disturbing thing I've watched in the internet is that one guy's slow descent to insanity because its brain lost its ability to sleep. He vlogged regularly until he died. That's one of the most disturbing things I know, that anyone, including myself, can have their last sleep without knowing it. Edit, Ricard Sayajan's channel, https://www. YouTube.com channel UK2B8ZBWOOK5NZW4JJ2KZ9 videos, for those who asked. Edit 2, TL, DW, the guy had a UT. He didn't have insurance so he took an antibiotic. After 2 weeks, he lost his ability to sleep because of the side effect of that antibiotic. Fatal insomnia. Your body and mind slowly rot while still alive. Edit, thanks Anon. Everyone who is frightened by this, do be aware it's a prion disease that's passed genetically or occurs sporadically extremely rarely. I mean less than 100 cases in the world rarely. This won't just suddenly happen to you. I am not really a fan of people saying stuff like, OMG wow so many like OMG. But it's nice to have this be my highest upvote comment instead of dick gun. Llama spit is actually projectile vomit. I had a gaggle of them surround me as a kid. My grandma took me to a friend's farm. One had teeth so fucked up I couldn't stop laughing, until it got angry and spit in my face. Within seconds the rest of them joined and so I ran out of the enclosure as fast as I could. Covered in spit. Well, apparently vomit. Gross. That at some point, you will hang out with a group of close friends for the last time, and not even know it. You'll assume there will be a next time. But that's it. I obsess about the last time if everything. I constantly wonder if it's my last time going to see someone. Kiss etc. There's always a last time for everything. The liver can be ruptured in one punch. Liver is the second most fragile organ in the human body. Edit. Well, fuck, lots of people seem interested. Do with this knowledge as you wish. Edit 2. I'm using fragile to mean susceptibility to damage, not sensitivity. It takes me back to elementary. The school I went to had these foot-high cement barriers around each section. We all balanced and ran on them. Like it was no big deal. One girl fell and ruptured her liver. It was such a horrific cry. That there are parents out there that willfully sell their children into sex slavery or force them into prostitution. I remember reading a news story about an infant that had been sexually abused by the mom's boyfriend, and I absolutely lost it. An infant. Not that children make any sense either, but a baby? It's beyond comprehension. There are about 6 U.S. nuclear weapons that are currently unaccounted for, Broken Arrow, and several times that number missing from Russia. Edit. I'm being told it's technically empty quiver. But Broken Arrow sounds at least 30% cooler, so I'm running with it. I don't know what's scarier. Losing nuclear weapons. Or that it happens so often there's actually a term for it. Fatal insomnia is a thing. https://en.m. Wikipedia. Org wiki. Fatal insomnia. That thing sounds like the absolute worst way to die. You just can't sleep while your brain and body slowly rot. I've watched both my parents die in hospice. And unlike what you've seen and heard about, it is not always peaceful. Edit to add, while the hospice staff were wonderful, the positive part of hospice is that everyone who wants to gets to say goodbye. Edit number 2, so many of you are sharing heart-wrenching stories of your loved ones passing. I am just so sorry for your losses and hope that you find comfort and healing in knowing that you are not alone. How many things I let slip through during security tests? I got 6 ounces of hair gel through. When the limit is 3. 5. They aren't even trying. You never stop seeing. When your eyes are closed you're just looking at your eyelids. Bruh. A brain aneurysm can kill you at any time. My neighbor was 50. In decent shape and out of nowhere died on the beach from a brain aneurysm. Felt awful for his daughter because his wife passed out of nowhere a month earlier. A cardiac tamponade is when your heart literally chokes itself to death. If a blood vessel inside the pericardium leaks, a tough membrane protecting the heart's pumping will force blood into the space between itself and the pericardium. As the space fills, the heart can't pump anymore due to a lack of space. It literally drowns in your own blood. Probably better to say it's crushed to death. Since the heart doesn't breathe it can't drown. But since it pumps it can be crushed so it can't fill back up again. Fun fact. If the pericardium fills with fluid slowly, e.g. weeks, or can stretch and hold up to 2 liters without many symptoms. If it fills fast, as little as 200 milliliters can kill you. The number of people older than you decreases each day and the number of people younger than you increases each day. All we need is another world war and that would be almost guaranteed to not be true at least one day. That you can have a cancer but you don't know about it. Yup. Had my appendix out and they found cancer on my kidney. They cut it out but it was quite a surprise. Deleted. Yup, you win. Enough Reddit for this day. Dolphins brutality kill baby porpoise for no reason. They fuck dead corpses too. The Nutty Putty Cave accident. Google for full disturbing details. A map of the cave, but basically a guy got stuck caving in a very narrow and mapped tunnel. Upside down. They could not get him out. But almost did. One of the rescuers made eye contact with him apparently, but then their pulley system broke and he fell further down. Unfortunately he ended up dying of cardiac arrest from being upside down for so long and they couldn't get him out. Never retrieved the body because it was too dangerous for rescuers. Truly so disturbing. I've thought about it probably once a week since I found out about it a few months ago. Edit. Even more disturbing now that someone gave this a wholesome award. Calling that situation the Nutty Putty Cave incident is such an unfittingly hilarious name for such a tragedy. The disk of our home galaxy, the Milky Way, is bigger than we previously thought. A new study shows it would take 200,000 years for a spaceship traveling at the speed of light to go across the entire galaxy. At light speed. Scrolled a lot and no one mentioned that a tumor can have teeth and eyes. That is something I will never get over. I'm not sure, but it should be called mesothelioma. Edit. Look below for the corrected name. Edit. It's teratoma. Thanks to everyone remembering me. It's called a teratoma. They can grow beating heart muscle and hair. 2. Bonus discomfort. They occur most often in the ovaries and testicles. I think Arthur C. Clarke said it best. 2 possibilities exist. Either we are alone in the universe or we are not. Both are equally terrifying. For every 1 human cell in your body, scientists estimate there are 110 non-human cells, aka lots of little microorganisms living inside you. This is kind of comforting actually. They're my little buddies living inside me and helping me digest my food. Red heart. I like being a biomime like Mother Nature. Edit. Or thanks for the awards guys. See. Deleted. Babies don't have kneecaps. Their skulls are also in multiple pieces and squishy at the seams for a few weeks. That slavery is still one of the biggest profiting trades in the world. Worked in Dubai for a couple years. It is common practice for your employer to take your passport so you can't leave even if you wanted to. Thankfully I had heard of these stories prior to flying there, and when my employer asked for mine I sternly said number. Edit. I'm getting downvoted for the truth. Internet censorship is real out there. There's probably a team working to downvote this comment. Hilarious. But please don't kill me lol. 1/3 of all people who break their hip die within the year. So please tape pillows to your elderly relatives. There are chicken plants pretending to be rehabs, where prisoners get sent to work as near slaves. https://reveal news. Org article. They thought they were going to rehab, they ended up in chicken plants. At some point your mom set you down and never picked you up again. One aspect of foster care. Some people will take their child to a doctor. Child gets diagnosed with cancer. Child goes to first appointment. Kid gets wheeled back for treatment. Parents then leave. Go home. Pack and disappear. The kid is in the treatment waiting room. Waiting for parents that will never ever come. Sick and facing death alone. It doesn't happen a lot, but enough to have processes in place. The worst is when they are like 4, although a 7-year-old was also rough. Edit. Whoa. Lots of comments, so I'll try and go through some. Also, it's biological parents that abandon them at the hospital. But foster parents do too. Especially if the first foster parents are relatives that were strongly asked to foster. I worked with a child that this happened to. I work for child safety. She was in hospital with a brain tumor for a year, relearning how to eat, talk, and walk, all alone. If an elephant's mate dies, then they can die from broken heart syndrome. A raccoon can fit up your ass if it's wanted to. Or if you wanted it to. There's millions of little creatures munching on her dead skin every second. Strangely, phrasing it like that makes me feel a little better about it. When scare science articles are like face mites are colonizing your pores, or the eyelash wiggler lives on your face and is basically one long butthole, then I get concerned. But this just makes them seem like little dudes. Dudes who are just trying to live their best eyelash wiggler life. What am I doing with that dead skin? Right? Might as well help support a family with it. Cyanide poisoning is an incredibly painful way to die. Cyanide was what Jonestown consumed for mass suicide. Parents were instructed to give it to their children and convinced the crying was just fear. Edit. For those asking about how, cyanide, https://emergency. CDC. Gov Agent Cyanide Basics Facts. ASP, works. If memory serves from when I first read this and listened to the audio recordings, it feels like a massive heart attack. It may not have taken too much time, but any time greater than instant is too long to suffer before death. I'm reminded of the fact that Jim Jones had someone shoot him in the head. Coward couldn't drink the poison he forced those people and their babies to take, and couldn't even pull the trigger himself. A gamma ray burst, or even a cosmic ray storm, could cause a near-instant mass extinction event. These both, probably, have affected life on Earth before. Both are common events in space. Basically random. And our only protection is the vastness of space. To feel more safe, space on the other hand is very vast. IDK about most disturbing but most, pre-ground coffee contains a certain amount of cockroaches and other bugs. When they get the coffee beans in Madagascar, there's so many roaches living in it that it's too much time and effort to sort them all out. So, a lot of pre-ground coffee is allowed to have a certain amount of cockroach in it. Now you know why some coffee has so much protein. Yep, I mean anyone who understood agriculture and food processing would understand that 0% would be totally unreasonable. Guys, if it makes you feel better, the food you eat has less cockroaches, rats, droppings in it than anyone else's food in history. Your great-grandparents had recipes that told them how to use food that was ravaged by bugs. Oh. So your bread is like 80% weevils and 20% bread now, huh? Here's a stew for that. Chris Farley's last words were, "Don't leave me." He said it the prostitute he was with, who then stole his watch and took a picture of him dead dying. Holy shit, that's heartbreaking. The law does not prevent you from doing anything, but it does give consequences if you do. If you want to kill someone and it's okay with the penalty, you can. Murder is probably the more academic example. Think financial stuff instead and you call it business expense. And for the normal person, once you earn a certain amount of money, speeding tickets become express fees. Edit. Interesting how some people equate speeding with reckless driving and things like doubling the speed limit. To these guys, you are the pillocks. https://yahoo. BZ2 Street 2F308U. Pelicans are some of the most demonic birds in existence, if not some of the most demonic creatures. Pelicans will go into other birds' nests, shove the parents out of the nest. They will then swallow babies whole, fly back to their own nests, and regurgitate the still half alive, partially digested babies to their own babies for them to consume. Some pelicans are literally raised on the partially digested, living flesh of other baby birds. If you try to grab the brain in its natural state, it will fall apart. When you see scientists pick up the brain, they have used chemicals to harden it. Also, brains have a gross, greasy smell. That one day everything we know and can imagine will be forgotten. There are enough kangaroos in Australia to take over Thailand. There are about 8 kangaroos per person there. What are they waiting for? That it literally just takes one person to decide to kill you. In any situation. The fact that someone can choose you randomly to kill, they might be caught and arrested, but they would have already killed you. No one can really prepare for it. There's a scene in Steve Martin's great film The Jerk where there is this random sniper dude on a hill overlooking a gas station. Sniper, die. You random son of a bitch. Sniper, die. Gas pumper. Often, burnt bodies are found in the same stance, known as the boxer pose, due to muscles contracting from heat. It's an incredibly disturbing looking thing. I first heard about it from my grandfather that fought in Burma. During the war he was present at a Burmese funeral in which the cadaver was burnt on a pyre. Just as the flames began to singe the corpse, it sat up straight. The Burmese, of course, got a good laugh out of the British soldiers collectively shitting themselves, as contractions due to heat during cremation is apparently rather common. Doesn't make it any less creepy. This is why when we Hindus cremate our dead we pile logs on top of them. Grandpa ain't sitting up straight with 100 kilos of dead wood on him. That if you have owls, you're more than likely going to suffocate to death. My mom used to work for this elder gentleman who suffered from owls. One day she gets a call that he's passed away in his apartment. From what she told me, she walked in and his eyes were wide open and his mouth was open, permanently left gasping for air. ALS is a neurodegenerative disease that causes people to lose control over their nerves over time to the point of near vegetative state. Most people don't last very long once diagnosed because they lose the ability to expand their chest to breathe and pretty much choke to death. That sadder thing about it that you could be fully awake when this happens and have no way of stopping it. This is why we need euthanasia for humans. And why it needs to become more accepted. We allow humans to suffer like this knowing they will, but we give more mercy to our pets. It sucks. During World War II, Japan bombed China with fleas infected with the bubonic plague. People seem to really forget about Japan's atrocities during World War II. It was Nazi-level shit. Late to the game. But learning this has really affected me, and as a mom of 4, it's hard to wrap my mind around it. A nurse who works at a local children's hospital shared that parents of children who are terminally ill will leave their children at the hospital and never come back, including after they die. Apparently it happens more often than we like to allow ourselves to believe. They just leave their children scared and alone while they die. Except for the amazing doctor and nursing staff to be with them and comfort them. I can't even fathom it. It makes my anxiety spike every time I think of it. It's just so heartbreaking. My mom works in hospice and has told me stories of braiding the hair of little girls whose parents don't visit, and cradling dying babies because they should have had someone to hold them every minute of their lives. I'm not sure if this will assuage your anxiety, but it gives me some comfort to imagine these patients not entirely alone. The value of a human body. There is value to the human body as a commodity, and different parts of our body are worth different amounts, while corneas are small. They fetch a large price, £15, 000, or about $22, 450, whereas our skeleton garners significantly less, £5, 000, about $7, 483. The price also depends on whether the body part is sold for specimen use, transplants, or on the black market. The mineral value of our body is like $3 bucks. Edit. On the brighter side, I would add that this is what motivates me to believe we can achieve something great as individuals as well as part of a team. We are just a bunch of cheap, easily purchased minerals, yet that is hardly all we are. How many disturbing and sick people we interact with on a daily basis, whom we don't know are psychopaths or child abusers. Buddy of mine had a high school teacher which had someone locked up in his sheds that he ended up raping and killing. At the same time my friend had his courses. Guy was later found to be a serial killer with a preference for high schoolers. Apparently he was a good and friendly teacher. One of Mayhem's band members committed suicide. When he was found by his bandmate, pictures were taken and it became the new album cover. The photographer was subsequently murdered by vague Vicarns who masterminded church burnings. Your perception of reality is not the same as everyone else's. This means that all the things that give you support, orientation and stability in life, in short, everything that keeps you from going completely crazy, may be known to other people. But to them it means something different, feels different and has a different value. You are alone in your perfect world. What is normal for the spider is chaos for the fly. Flies don't have teeth. So, when they land on your sandwich and want to eat some, they barf up the contents of their stomach, often containing another animal's shit, so the digestive enzymes can get on the food and then they eat. F you man. Propaganda works. Anything can happen to anyone at any moment. I had my first seizure at 18. No family member has had epilepsy before. Never take anything for granted. It can all change in an instant. Inside every old person is a young person wondering where the fuck the years went. The Rainbow Valley on Mt. Everest is only called that because of the amount of colored jackets from the people that died making the climb are frozen in place. Bound to the mountain forever. Edit. WTF, why do so many people like that fact? It's a little scary. NGL. There are guys with a fetish to cut off their penises. There's even a subreddit dedicated to it. I found out about it a few months ago and it still haunts me. Drop the subreddit so we can avoid it. Eyes. There are 32 missing nuclear weapons. And those are only the ones that we know of. Stress destroys your body on a molecular level. Well, thanks for helping it do that. That UAE is building their country using modern slavery and no one seems to care about it. Celebrities going there and marketing Dubai as if nothing horrible is going on. Anesthesia awareness is a thing. Given the effects of anesthetics preventing the formation of new memories, it's possible it always happens and we just don't remember it afterwards. https://en. Wikipedia. Org Wiki Anesthesia Awareness. Please someone debunk the always happens part please. I'm that episode of The Simpsons where Homer puts together a dating video for Ned. There's footage of Ned getting out of the shower. His junk is pixelated and goes down to his knees. Which is funny in itself, except before this it was establishes that Lisa was the one editing the tape. She saw everything. Ned is so modest he worked out how to be pixelated in real life. The reason people usually don't scream in beheading videos is that they have been practice runs before. The first couple times they go through the whole process they stop right before cutting. By the time it actually happens they don't know if it's real or not. So if I just scream every time they can't get a nice video and I'm safe. There was a cat in a retirement home here that always went to sleep on the bed where he knew the person would die. On the one hand it was reassuring that the people had company at their last moments in life, but people started to panic when the cat jumped up on their bed. So they had to take the cat away from the home. I think they must pick up a certain smell or a change of to be able to know. Well, at least the cat was hella compassionate. Bachabazi, https://en. Wikipedia. Org Wiki Bachabazi. The horrendous practice of having a dancing boy aka child sex slave in some regions of Afghanistan and Pakistan. When families are poor they will sell their child to be a dancing boy. The children are frequently killed if they resist. It's a rough watch, but the documentary, The Dancing Boys of Afghanistan, https://yahoo. BB7 covers this awful practice pretty well. The CPR dummy face template is based on a dead 16-year-old girl's face. Her body was pulled from the River Seine in the 1880s and her cause of death and identity were never discovered. A mortician was so entranced by her peaceful expression that he made a plaster mask of her which became the face of CPR dummies and health training equipment. So hundreds of millions of people have kissed the face of an anonymous dead girl in the last 150 years. Not gonna lie. There's something grimly comforting about that. To think that a girl who would have otherwise been lost to history has indirectly saved lives, like the one she once briefly lived, is weirdly heartwarming. Perhaps she has saved others from her own fate. Organ failure is a far less peaceful death than TV portrays it as. They usually don't just quietly pass in an instant. It takes days. Wheezing, rattling breaths, gargling noises from somewhere in their throat, etc. The body makes a lot of noise when shutting down. Source: witnessed my grandpa die of organ failure over the span of a week. He was unconscious. Unlike movies, where the person silently lies there and peacefully stops breathing, it's quite graphic and disturbing. In my country some women rent babies to beg money within the streets. They make them drink a pill that would make them sleep. In World War I, thousands of soldiers listened to politicians tell them it'll be a quick war. In and out, and even Kaiser Wilhelm II said you'll be home before the first leaves of August fall to his soldiers. The war destroyed the psyche of thousands of soldiers, ended family lines, tore Europe apart, and the worst of all, buried bodies beneath the earth alongside weapons and equipment that is never going to be found. And this is only a 4-year war that pushed the limits to the max. How lobotomies were conducted. They scrambled the brain while asking their patient questions to know when to stop once the answers became nonsensical and inconsistent. I'm not of the squeamish kind. But being made into a mindless husk while being conscious is just one of the worst things imaginable to me. I managed to watch Men Behind the Sun, which is the worst movie I ever saw, because of its realism. But watching videos of lobotomies being conducted is completely unbearable. Because of pregnant women. The average number of skeletons inside a human body is greater than 1. Most modern knowledge on what happens when you go through hypothermia is almost entirely down the Nazi and Japanese human experiments. I forget what it's called, but sometimes the artery that runs right next to your esophagus, over years of recurrent acid reflux, can rupture. It fills your stomach with blood in seconds, which causes you to vomit, which causes more damage. It fills you up with blood so fast that it eventually fills your lungs. This takes maybe a minute or two and is almost always fatal unless it happens to occur while you're in a hospital. Your last few minutes alive are spent vomiting pints of blood and then drowning in it. You cannot prove that anyone else is real. The only thing you know for sure is you are conscious. That it takes 3 generations for you to be completely forgotten. Think about how you viewed your great-grandparents. Sure, you probably loved them, but for most people their great-grandparents die and are forgotten as you live your life. One day that will be all of us. Disappearing into the void. None to remember who we were, what our life was like, or what we believed in.